The poison went into the bulgogi at exactly 9:47 p.m. Brooke Williams had 3 minutes before the kitchen manager returned from his smoke break. 3 minutes to finish plating the dish that would end Kang Min-jun's life. Her hands didn't shake, not even when she thought about her father's charred body pulled from the ruins of his restaurant 6 months ago. What she didn't know was that Min-jun had been waiting for this moment since the day she'd walked into his kitchen. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let me show you how a woman with everything to lose became obsessed with a man who'd already decided she belonged to him. The kitchen at Lotus hummed with controlled chaos. Brooke moved between stations with the efficiency of someone who'd earned her place, her tall frame navigating the tight spaces as she checked the mise en place one final time. 6 months as sous chef. 6 months of smiling at the man whose family had murdered her father over protection money he'd never known he owed. The official story called it an electrical fire. The insurance company agreed. But Brooke had found the threatening letters hidden in her father's desk, each one signed with a lotus flower stamp. The calling card of the Kang organization. She'd spent those months learning Min-jun's routines, his favorite dishes, the nights he dined alone in the private room upstairs. Tonight, his security detail waited outside instead of hovering at his shoulder. Tonight, the oleander extract she'd cultivated for weeks would finally have its purpose. Her phone buzzed, a text from her younger sister. Made the dean's list. Dad would have been proud. Brooke's chest tightened. She slipped the phone back into her pocket and reached for the small vial hidden in her knife roll. "Table 7's bulgogi," she called out, her voice steady despite the thunder in her ears. "I'll plate it myself." Across the kitchen, through the small window that looked into the private dining room, she could see him. Min-jun sat alone, scrolling through his phone with the casual elegance of someone who'd never had to look over his shoulder. Dark hair swept back, sharp jawline. The kind of face that belonged in magazines, not at the head of a criminal empire. She hated that she'd noticed. The vial felt cold against her palm as she uncapped it. 1 drop, 2, 3. She mixed it into the sauce with movements that looked natural, professional. No one watching would suspect anything except a chef perfecting her craft. She garnished the plate with practiced precision. Microgreens, sesame seeds, a drizzle of gochujang aioli. Perfect, beautiful. Deadly. 2 minutes and 40 seconds left. Brooke reached for the service bell, but the kitchen manager's voice cut through the noise before she could ring it. "Williams, VIP just requested you deliver it personally." He didn't look up from his tablet. "Says he wants to compliment the chef." Her blood turned to ice. Min-jun never requested personal. Service. Never broke routine. In 6 months, he'd been as predictable as clockwork. Order, eat, leave. That was the pattern she'd counted on. Now? The word came out sharper than intended. "Yeah, now. What, you got a problem with tips?" The manager was already moving toward the walk-in. 2 minutes, Williams. Don't keep him waiting." Brooke's mind raced as she lifted the plate. This wasn't part of the plan. Face-to-face contact meant exposure, meant risk, meant... She forced herself to breathe. It didn't matter. In 20 minutes, he'd be dead. In 20 minutes, justice would be served. She just had to deliver the plate, accept whatever hollow compliment he offered, and walk away. The private dining room felt smaller than it looked from the kitchen. Min-jun sat with his back to the door, silhouetted against the floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the Chicago River. The city lights painted everything in shades of gold and shadow. "Mr. Kang," her voice came out steady, professional. "Your bulgogi." He turned, and something in his expression made her grip the plate tighter. Not surprise, not curiosity, recognition. "Ms. Williams," he gestured to the seat across from him. "Join me. I should get back to the kitchen. Sit." The word wasn't loud, but it carried the weight of someone used to being obeyed, then softer. "Please." Brooke set the plate down carefully and lowered herself into the chair, every muscle coiled tight. Through the window, she could see his security detail repositioning, their attention focused outward. No witnesses, no interruptions. Min-jun studied the dish with unsettling focus. "You've been working here for 6 months." "Yes." "Started as a prep cook, made sous chef in 3 months." "Impressive." His fingers drummed once against the table. "Tell me something, Brooke. Why Lotus? Why my restaurant?" The use of her first name sent warning bells through her system. The opportunity was, your father owned Sam's Soul Kitchen in Bronzeville. His voice remained conversational, but his eyes had gone dark, predatory. Third-generation establishment, burned down 6 months and 2 weeks ago, the same week you applied to work here. The room tilted. Every carefully constructed lie dissolved on her tongue. This is the moment she realized he'd been hunting her all along. But what she didn't understand yet was why he'd let her get this close. "I don't know what you're—" "Please don't insult either of us with denial." Minjun leaned forward, and the movement was predatory, calculated. "I've known who you are since your second interview. I know about the letters your father received. I know about the protection money he couldn't pay. I know—" His jaw tightened. "I know it was my father's operation that gave the order." Brooke's hands clenched in her lap, nails biting into her palms. "Then why am I still breathing?" "Because you deserved the chance." Something raw flickered across his face. "Because what happened to your father was murder, and I've spent 6 months trying to find a way to tell you that I'm sorry won't bring him back, but I'm burning down everything my family built anyway." The words didn't compute. She stared at him, searching for the lie, the manipulation, the trap. "You're sorry," she repeated flatly. "Your family killed my father over $5,000 he didn't even know he owed, and you're sorry." "Yes, go to hell." Minjun picked up his chopsticks. "You're going to want to watch this part." He lifted a piece of the poisoned meat to his lips, their eyes locked. Brooke's heart hammered against her ribs as he took the bite, chewed slowly, swallowed. No convulsions, no gasping, no death. He took another bite, and another. His expression never changed. "Oleander," he said finally, setting down his chopsticks. "Clever, tasteless. Mimics a heart attack in the right dosage." He leaned back, and the sorrow in his eyes looked genuine. Too genuine. "I built up an immunity 3 years ago. After the 4th assassination attempt, it seemed practical." The world narrowed to the space between them. Brooke couldn't breathe, couldn't think. 6 months of planning, of grief channeled into cold purpose, of waiting for this exact moment. "You knew," she whispered. "I knew." He stood, moving around the table with predatory grace, not rushed, inevitable. "What I didn't know was whether you'd actually go through with it, whether the woman who corrected my head chef's kimchi recipe and made him cry with gratitude had enough hate left to finish what you started." Brooke shot to her feet, chair scraping against marble. Her vision tunneled. The exit was 12 feet away. His security was outside. If she ran... Minjun was already there, his hand catching her wrist before she'd fully turned. Not roughly, but with enough pressure to stop her retreat. The contact sent a jolt through her nervous system that she absolutely refused to acknowledge. "Don't!" His voice dropped to barely above a whisper. "Don't run, not yet. Let me... I can't." His thumb found her pulse, racing beneath her skin. "Because if you walk out of this building tonight, you'll be dead before you reach the street." She tried to jerk free. His grip tightened fractionally. "You're insane. My father's men have had a contract on you for 3 weeks. He pulled out his phone with his free hand, showed her the screen, encrypted messages, photos of her apartment, her sister leaving campus. The contract price, $50,000. Someone intercepted your dark web searches for poisons. Someone told my father. I've been running interference, moving the pieces to keep you breathing, but my time just ran out. Because tonight wasn't just about poison and revenge. Tonight, 2 people playing a deadly game were about to discover they'd both been trapped from the beginning. This is the best time to subscribe if you need to know what happens next. Trust me, this story only gets more intense." Brooke stared at the photos, at the proof that her carefully hidden research had been exposed, at the evidence that she should already be dead. Why? The word came out broken. Why protect someone trying to kill you? Minjun's expression shifted, something raw and desperate bleeding through his controlled facade. Because I've been in love with you since you walked into my kitchen and looked at me like I was just another obstacle to overcome. His free hand came up slowly, fingers hovering near her face but not touching. Because watching you hate me has been the most honest thing in my life for months. Because... His phone buzzed. Once. Twice. 3 times in rapid succession. His expression went flat. Dangerous. We're out of time. He released her wrist but moved to block the exit. My father knows you failed. His men are moving on your sister right now unless I do something he can't ignore. My sister? Panic flooded Brooke's system, white-hot and overwhelming. No, she's not part of this. I know. Minjun's jaw clenched, which is why you're going to become mine, tonight, right now. The words hung between them like a blade. What? He stepped closer, crowding her against the table, his eyes boring into hers with an intensity that made her forget how to breathe. You're going to become my fiancé. We're going to walk out of this room together, and I'm going to announce our engagement to everyone in this restaurant. It's the only way to signal to my father that you're untouchable, that hurting you or your sister means going to war with me. Brooke's mind spun. This is insane, possessive, completely irrational. His voice dropped to something raw and dangerous. But I will burn down my entire legacy to keep you breathing, Brooke Williams. So here's your choice. His hand finally made contact, fingers curling beneath her chin, tilting her face up to meet his gaze. Become mine and save your sister. Or refuse, and we both watch her die. Brooke's world narrowed to 3 things: the heat of Minjun's hand beneath her chin, the impossible choice he'd just given her, and the sound of her own heartbeat thundering in her ears. You're insane, she whispered, but her voice lacked conviction. Probably. His thumb traced the line of her jaw, and she hated how her body responded to the touch. But your sister has 12 minutes before my father's men reach her apartment. So decide, Brooke, now. Her mind raced through options that didn't exist. Call the police? Half of them were on Kang payroll. Run? His security blocked every exit. Fight? The man had survived her poison like it was seasoning. Talia's face flashed through her mind. 20 years old, full scholarship to Northwestern, the only family Brooke had left. The sister who still cried when she talked about their father, who texted Dean's list updates like Dad could somehow still see them. How, do I know you're telling the truth? Brooke's hands clenched at her sides. That this isn't just another way to... Minjun released her chin and stepped back, creating space she didn't want to acknowledge feeling the loss of. He pulled out his phone, fingers moving across the screen with practiced efficiency, then held it toward her. A live security feed, Talia's apartment building, 2 dark SUVs idling at the curb, engines running, men in the front seats, faces obscured but posture unmistakable, waiting. Those are my father's men, Minjun said quietly. They're not moving in yet because he wants to see what I do first. It's a test. His jaw clenched. Everything with him is a test. Brooke stared at the feed, at the very real threat sitting outside her sister's building. Her throat tightened. I need to hear her voice. Her hands trembled now, adrenaline crashing through her system. I need to know Talia's actually safe before I... Minjun handed her his phone without argument. Call her, but make it convincing. If she panics and runs to campus security, my father will know. What Brooke didn't understand yet was that Minjun's father had orchestrated this entire night, and making that call was exactly what he'd been waiting for. Brooke's fingers shook as she dialed. 1 ring, 2, 3. Hello? Talia's voice, slightly annoyed, blissfully unaware. Tally, it's me. Brooke turned away from Minjun, needing the illusion of privacy. Are you home? Yeah, studying for my organic chem midterm. Why? You sound weird. Listen to me carefully. Brooke forced steadiness into her voice. Don't react, don't freak out, just listen. A pause. Brooke, you're scaring me. I know, I'm sorry, but I need you to trust me right now. She pressed her palm against the cool window glass, watching the city lights blur. There's been a situation at the restaurant. Nothing I can't handle, but I need you somewhere safe while I deal with it. What kind of situation? The kind where you pack a bag calmly, like you're going to stay with a friend for the weekend. Then you walk out of your building and get in the black town car that'll be waiting in exactly 8 minutes. Brooke, please, Tally. The driver will take you to the Peninsula Hotel on Michigan Avenue. There's a suite reserved under my name. Order room service, watch terrible reality TV, and wait for me to call. Can you do that? The silence stretched. Then, this is about Dad, isn't it? About what really happened. Brooke's chest constricted. Her sister was too smart for her own good. Yes? Okay. Talia's voice steadied, matured in an instant. Okay, I'm packing now, but Brooke, you better call me in 2 hours or I'm calling every news outlet in Chicago. Deal, I love you. Love you too, be careful. The call ended. Brooke handed the phone back to Min-Jun, her hand still shaking. She's smart. She knows something's wrong. Good. He was already texting. Smart means she'll follow instructions. I'm sending my personal driver, someone my father can't touch without direct confrontation. He looked up, something like respect in his eyes. You handled that well. Don't. Bitterness flooded her mouth. Don't compliment me for protecting her from danger your family created. You're right. He pocketed his phone. But she'll be safe at the Peninsula. Full security detail. No one gets near her without my authorization. A soft knock interrupted them. Min-Jun's expression shifted, tension bleeding into his shoulders, before he called out, "Come in." The door opened. A woman entered, late 50s, elegant in the way that came from generations of old money, wearing a charcoal silk suit that probably cost more than Brooke made in 6 months. Her eyes, the same dark intensity as Min-Jun's, swept over the scene with calculating precision. Min-Jun's spine straightened fractionally. Mother, this is unexpected. Is it? The woman's Korean accent was heavier than her son's, each word precisely chosen. Your father sent me. He wanted observation of tonight's events. Her gaze locked on Brooke with unsettling focus. You must be Ms. Williams, the sous chef who's been with us for 6 months. The way she said us made Brooke's skin crawl, like she was already property, already owned. Mother, meet my fiancé. Min-Jun moved, placing himself subtly between them. Brooke Williams. We were just about to make the announcement. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Fiancé. The word dripped with measured disbelief. How wonderfully sudden. Your father will be fascinated to hear this development. The unspoken threat hung in the air like smoke. Brooke's instinct screamed to run, but Min-Jun's hand found hers, squeezing once in warning. The contact sent electricity up her arm that she refused to acknowledge. It's not sudden, he said smoothly, his thumb stroking across Brooke's knuckles in a gesture that looked practiced, intimate. We've been careful, discreet, but recent events have made it clear that waiting serves no purpose. His mother's eyes narrowed, tracking the movement of his thumb. Reading body language the way predators read prey. Recent events. You mean the oleander in tonight's bulgogi? Brooke's heart stopped. A test, Min-Jun said without missing a beat. I asked Brooke to prove she had the courage to do what needed to be done, to show me she wouldn't break under pressure. His mother smiled then, slow and knowing, and Brooke realized with cold certainty that everyone in this family played games within games. A test, his mother repeated softly. How like your father you've become. She moved further into the room, circling them with the precision of someone assessing merchandise. Tell me, Ms. Williams, do you love my son? The question was a trap. Brooke could feel the jaws closing around her. Yes. The lie tasted like ash, but she forced conviction into it. I do. Interesting. His mother stopped directly in front of Brooke, close enough that she could smell expensive perfume and something sharper underneath. Because 6 months ago, your father died in a fire started by this family's organization, and now you're standing here, claiming to love the son of the man who ordered it. Brooke's nails bit into her palms. People are complicated. Indeed they are. The older woman's expression shifted, something almost like approval flickering across her features. "Your father will never accept this," she said, turning to Minjun. "A black woman, an outsider, someone with every reason to destroy this family from the inside. Then father will have to choose." Minjun's voice went deadly soft, his arm sliding around Brooke's waist and pulling her against him. The full body contact made her breath catch. His pride or his legacy, because Brooke is mine. That's not negotiable. His mother studied them both for a long, uncomfortable moment. Then, unexpectedly, her expression softened. "You really do love her." It wasn't a question. Yes. Minjun didn't hesitate, didn't look at Brooke when he said it. "I really do." The conviction in his voice made something in Brooke's chest twist, painfully. This was an act, a performance to save her life and her sister's. It had to be. So why did it feel like the truest thing anyone had said to her in 6 months? "Then you should know," his mother said, moving to the window, her reflection ghost-like against the city lights, "that your father has been aware of Ms. Williams's true identity since before we hired her. He approved her application personally." The world tilted. Minjun's arm tightened around Brooke's waist. "What?" "He's been orchestrating this entire situation, watching to see which of you would break first, whether you'd choose family loyalty or—" She paused, something pained crossing her features. "Something else. The fire?" Brooke's voice came out strangled. "My father—" His mother turned to face them fully. "Wasn't about protection money. Your father's restaurant sat on property my husband wanted for development. The protection racket was fabricated. The fire was deliberate." Her eyes met Brooke's with something that might have been regret. "Your father was collateral damage in a real estate acquisition. I'm sorry." And that's when they realized the entire game had been rigged from the start. But the worst revelation was still coming. Minjun's phone buzzed, once, twice, 3 times in rapid succession. He pulled it out, and every drop of color drained from his face. "What?" Brooke demanded, cold dread flooding her system. "What is it?" He turned the phone toward her silently. A photo filled the screen. Talia sitting in the back of a car, eyes wide with confused fear. And in the driver's seat, clearly visible and smiling at the camera, was an older Korean man whose face Brooke recognized from the research she'd done months ago. Minjun's father. The message below read, "The town car you sent for the sister? I send a different one. Bring your fiancé to the estate. 1 hour. We'll discuss terms for the girl's return. As a family." Brooke's knees buckled. Minjun caught her, his arms banding around her as her vision tunneled. "He knew," she whispered. "He knew you'd try to protect her. He was counting on it." "Yes." Minjun's voice had gone flat. "Dangerous." "He was." His mother's face had gone pale. "Minjun, your father wouldn't actually hurt the girl. This is just pressure, just—" "You don't know what he'd do anymore." Minjun's eyes stayed locked on the photo. "None of us do." He looked at Brooke then, and the raw determination in his gaze took her breath away. "We're going to get your sister back. But Brooke, when we walk into that estate, you need to understand something." His hand cupped her face with unexpected gentleness. "Everything I say, everything I do from this moment forward, trust that I'm trying to keep you both alive, even if it looks like I'm not. What are you going to do?" His expression hardened into something terrifying and beautiful at once. "Whatever it takes." The drive to the Kang estate took 37 minutes. Brooke counted every second, her hand locked in Minjun's grip so tight her fingers had gone numb. She didn't let go, neither did he. His mother sat across from them in the back of the armored SUV, her expression unreadable in the passing streetlights. The silence was suffocating. "When we arrive," Minjun said quietly, his thumb tracing circles on Brooke's palm, "you don't speak unless he asks you a direct question. You don't react to anything he says. You stay next to me at all times. He has my sister." "I know." His jaw clenched. "But if you give him the reaction he wants, he'll use it. My father weaponizes emotion. It's how he's controlled this family for 40 years. Brooke forced herself to breathe, to think past the terror clawing at her throat. What does he want? To see if I'll choose you over him. Minjun's eyes met hers, dark and intense. To prove that loving someone outside the family makes me weak, disloyal. And if you choose me, then he'll make us both pay for it. His hand tightened on hers. But I've been preparing for this conversation longer than you know. What neither of them knew was that Minjun's father had spent 3 years laying a trap, and tonight, all the pieces were finally in position. The Kang estate sprawled across 5 acres in Lake Forest, hidden behind iron gates and manicured hedges that screamed old money and older secrets. Security lights flooded the circular driveway as they pulled up to the main house, a sprawling modern structure of glass and stone that looked more like a fortress than a home. Men in dark suits lined the entrance, too many of them, all armed. Minjun's mother exited first, her heels clicking against marble with practiced precision. Minjun followed, pulling Brooke with him, his body positioned slightly in front of hers, protective, possessive. The front door opened before they reached it. Minjun's father stood in the entrance, 60-something, silver-haired, wearing a tailored suit despite the late hour. His face could have been carved from stone, cold, calculating. The kind of man who'd built an empire on other people's fear. His eyes locked on Brooke with the intensity of a predator sizing up prey. "Ms. Williams." His English was flawless, accent barely perceptible. "Welcome to my home. I apologize for the unconventional invitation." Brooke's nails bit into Minjun's hand. She said nothing. "Where is she?" Minjun's voice cut through the night air like a blade. His father's expression didn't change. Inside, unharmed. "Having tea with my wife in the sitting room, actually. She's quite charming. Your future sister-in-law. Smart, too. Studying biochemistry, she tells me." The casual mention of Talia, the way he said sister-in-law like this, was a normal family gathering. It made Brooke's blood boil. "Let me see her," she said, the words escaping before she could stop them. Minjun's father smiled, slow and knowing. "Of course, but first, we discuss terms, as a family." He stepped aside, gesturing into the house. "Please." It wasn't a request, because this wasn't just about one night or one choice. This was the culmination of 3 years of silent warfare between father and son. The sitting room was exactly what Brooke expected. Expensive furniture, Korean art on the walls, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking gardens lit by subtle landscape lighting. And there, on a cream-colored sofa, sat Talia. Her sister looked up, relief flooding her face when she saw Brooke. She started to stand, but an older Korean woman, Minjun's stepmother, Brooke guessed, placed a gentle hand on her shoulder, a restraint disguised as comfort. "I'm okay," Talia called out, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. "They haven't hurt me." Yet, the unspoken word hung in the air. Minjun's father moved to a bar cart, poured himself whiskey with deliberate slowness. "Sit, all of you." Minjun guided Brooke to a chair, positioning himself between her and his father. His mother took a seat near the window, her expression carefully neutral. "So," his father began, swirling his glass, "my son has fallen in love, enough to bring an outsider into this family, a woman who tried to poison him tonight." He took a slow sip. "A woman whose father died because of decisions I made 3 years ago." "Business decisions," Minjun said flatly. "That's what you've always called them." His father's eyes glinted. "Samuel Williams owned property I needed. He refused to sell. The protection racket gave me leverage. The fire was regrettable, but necessary." Brooke's entire body went rigid, hearing it stated so casually, so coldly, her father's death reduced to regrettable, but necessary. "You murdered him for real estate," she whispered. "I removed an obstacle." His father's gaze never wavered. Just as I've removed hundreds of obstacles over 40 years, that's what building an empire requires, Ms. Williams. The willingness to do what others won't. And I'm done being part of it. Minjun's voice cut through the tension. I want out. My portion of the legitimate businesses, the hotels, the restaurants, everything that's clean. I'll sign over my stake in everything else. His father set down his glass with controlled precision. In exchange for what? Safe passage. For Brooke, her sister, and myself. No retaliation, no consequences. Minjun leaned forward. I walk away clean, and you never hear from me again. And if I refuse? Minjun pulled a thick envelope from his jacket, placed it on the table between them. Then you deal with the contents of that. Financial records, witness statements, evidence of every illegal operation you've run for the last decade. Copies are already with my attorney, with instructions to deliver them to the FBI if anything happens to any of us. His father stared at the envelope for a long moment. Then he laughed, a sound without humor. You think you're the first son to threaten me with exposure? He stood, moving to the window. You think I haven't planned for betrayal? I think you love this empire more than anything, Minjun said quietly, and I'm betting you won't risk losing it. His father turned back, and something dangerous flickered across his features. You're wrong about what I love most. He gestured to one of his men. Bring it. The man disappeared, returned 30 seconds later carrying a laptop. He set it on the table, opened it to show a video feed. Brooke's blood turned to ice. The screen showed a basement room, gray concrete walls, a single chair in the center, and tied to that chair, bloodied but conscious, was a man Brooke recognized from Min Jun's security detail, the driver who was supposed to take Talia to the peninsula. This is when they realized Min Jun's father had been 3 steps ahead all night, and the real price for freedom was about to be named. Jung-ho has worked for me for 12 years, Min Jun's father said conversationally. Loyal, competent, trustworthy, until tonight when he agreed to help my son betray me. He closed the laptop. I had him picked up 20 minutes ago. He's currently in a warehouse in Gary, Indiana. Very isolated, very soundproof. Min Jun's face had gone white. Father. Here are my terms. His father's voice went cold. You can have your freedom. You can take Miss Williams and her sister. You can walk away with your hotels and your restaurants and your clean conscience. He paused. But Jung-ho pays the price for helping you. 1 bullet tonight, and you're the one who pulls the trigger. The room went silent. Brooke felt the world tilt beneath her. This wasn't about evidence or money or empire. This was about breaking Min Jun, about proving that choosing love over family came with a cost measured in blood. You're insane, she breathed. I'm practical. His father's eyes never left Min Jun's face. This is what leadership requires, son. The willingness to sacrifice the few for the many. You want your freedom. Prove you understand what it costs. Min Jun stood slowly, his entire body vibrating with tension. And if I refuse, then Jung-ho dies anyway, as does his family, wife, 2 daughters. His father picked up his whiskey. But you'll have kept your hands clean. You can tell yourself you're better than me while other people pay for your choices. Brooke watched Min Jun's face, saw the anguish, the calculation, the desperate search for a third option that didn't exist. There's another way, Min Jun said finally, his voice hollow. You let Jung-ho go, let all of us go, and I give you something worth more than revenge. Nothing is worth more than loyalty. What about 5 of your competitors? Min Jun pulled out his phone, showed his father the screen. I've spent 3 years building relationships with your rivals, the Park Syndicate, the Choi family operations, Zhang's trafficking networks out of Chinatown, the Petrov brothers' gambling operations. I have evidence on all of them. Enough to eliminate your competition for the next decade. His father's expression shifted, interest cutting through the cold calculation. I give you everything, Min Jun continued, his voice gaining strength. Every piece of leverage I've collected, every weakness I've found, you become the most powerful organization in the Midwest. No competition, no threats. He stepped closer, but only if we all walk away, tonight, alive. The silence stretched for 10 heartbeats, 20. His father's eyes narrowed, weighing the offer, calculating profit against pride. "Show me," he said finally. Min-jun opened his phone, pulled up files, spread them across the table. Financial records, photos, encrypted communications, 3 years of careful intelligence gathering laid out like an offering. His father studied them with the focus of a man who'd built an empire on information. After 5 minutes, he looked up. "Young-ho goes free," he said. "You take your portion of the clean businesses. You leave Chicago within 72 hours. He glanced at Brooke, then Talia. "But understand this. If any of this intelligence is false, if you've played me, I will find you, all of you. And what I do to Young-ho will look like mercy compared to what you'll suffer." Min-jun's jaw clenched, but he nodded. "It's real, all of it." His father gestured to his men. "Release Jung-ho. Transfer the hotel and restaurant deeds to Min-jun's name." He picked up the envelope Min-jun had brought, tossed it into the fireplace. Flames consumed the evidence within seconds. "You're no longer my son, no longer a Kang. If we meet again, it will be as strangers." "I understand." Min-jun turned to Brooke and Talia. "We're leaving, now." They made it 3 steps before his father spoke again. "Min-jun." He stopped but didn't turn around. "She better be worth it." Min-jun looked back at his father, the man who'd raised him, brutalized him, taught him that love was weakness and loyalty was currency. Then he looked at Brooke, at the woman who'd tried to poison him and somehow became the only real thing in his life. "She is," he said simply. They made it to the car, to the end of the driveway, past the gates. Brooke sat between Min-jun and Talia in the back seat, her mind spinning. They were free, alive, safe. But as the estate disappeared behind them, she couldn't stop thinking about what Min-jun had just done. He'd sacrificed 3 years of work, his family, his entire identity, for her, for a woman who'd spent 6 months planning his murder. The weight of that hit her like a physical blow. "Pull over," she said suddenly. The driver glanced at Min-jun, who nodded. The car stopped on a dark stretch of road. Brooke turned to face him, her hands shaking. "Why?" The word came out broken. "Why would you give up everything for someone who tried to kill you?" Min-jun's hand came up, cupping her face with unexpected gentleness. "Because the moment you walked into my kitchen, I saw someone who understood that justice matters more than survival, someone who'd risk everything for family." His thumb brushed away a tear she hadn't realized had fallen. "Because I've spent my whole life being my father's son, and I'd rather die being yours." The confession hung in the air between them, raw and honest and terrifying. Brooke's chest constricted. She should pull away, should remember that this man's family murdered her father, should feel anything except this overwhelming, complicated want. Instead, she leaned forward and pressed her forehead to his. "I don't know what this is," she whispered. "I don't know if I can forgive what your family did. I don't know if what I'm feeling is real or just trauma." He finished quietly. "Stockholm Syndrome, adrenaline. Yeah, then figure it out." His voice cracked slightly. "Take all the time you need, but do it somewhere safe, somewhere far from Chicago and my father's reach. And you? I'll be wherever you are." His lips brushed her temple. "Even if it's from a distance, even if you decide you can't stand the sight of me, I'll make sure you and Talia stay safe." Talia, who'd been silent throughout, finally spoke. "For what it's worth," her voice was shaky but firm, "I think you should give him a chance, Brooke. Anyone who'd burn down their entire world for you." She paused. "That's not nothing." Brooke pulled back enough to meet Min-jun's eyes. In them, she saw exhaustion, fear, and something that looked dangerously like love. 72 hours, she said finally. We have 72 hours before we leave Chicago, so let's start there. 3 days to figure out if this is real or if we're both just broken people making terrible decisions. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. 3 days. And Minjun? She threaded her fingers through his. Thank you. For my sister. For everything. His kiss was soft this time, questioning rather than claiming. And when she kissed him back, it felt less like passion and more like a promise. Neither of them was ready to make but couldn't quite resist. When they broke apart, he rested his forehead against hers. 3 days, he repeated, and then we run, together. Brooke nodded, even though she wasn't sure if she was running towards something or away from everything she'd lost. But for the first time in 6 months, she wasn't running alone. And that's where we leave Brooke and Minjun, with 3 days to decide if love born from poison and betrayal can survive in the light. H.I. Chinggis. If you love this story, subscribe to Afro-Korean romance stories for more dark mafia romances, forbidden love, and dangerous chemistry between unlikely lovers. We post new stories every week, each one more intense than the last. Drop a comment and tell me, should Brooke trust Minjun, or is she making the biggest mistake of her life? I read every single one, and if you want to see a sequel to this story, what happens after those 72 hours, let me know below. Your girl might just have to write part 2. Until next time, keep falling for the wrong ones. Saranghia.